What's going on, everybody? This is the blockchain backer bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Today, we're taking a look at the Bitcoin price chart and the altcoin market. It's the end of the week. We've got some positive price action over here in Bitcoin and various altcoins, so we'll take a peek of what's going on. It's now our second positive week that we've really seen over here in crypto. We could see that Bitcoin is now back up to the upper end of the boundary of the range that we've been stuck under here for about 80 days. We'll check that really fast. Day 79. So lots of excitement out there seeing us up here at the top of this range. Of course, that's what it is at this point, is just kind of being stuck under here. So hopefully we see a breakout that happens throughout the next couple of days, taking us into the weekend. I know people could use a little bit of positivity in their lives. I'm there. I'm with you too. The thing that, I've talked about with this is that, I know that when we break through ranges or we get out of a range, there could be a ton of excitement thinking, hey, this breakout indicates, boom, we're going to all-time highs. And you would have to expect that on Twitter and everywhere. There probably will be posts everywhere saying we're going to all-time highs. If my thesis is correct, which is, of course, I believe in my thesis, is that, it's probably just still ranging, right? Even though it takes out that high, it doesn't mean it's not still just ranging like this, right? So for me, I still will remain cautious, even if any type of highs do get taken out. I know that puts a little bit of damper on the excitement of that range getting broken, but, that's just the things that I see happening in here. My thought process is that we're just working on a bigger retracement. In typical retracements, what you do see is you see a rise back up to the 618 retracement, a pull all the way back down, and then one more return right back up to the upside. And not necessarily as clean and beautiful as this, but many times very sloppy along the way, like I've shown with a lot of those inverse price charts. So definitely nice to see Bitcoin getting back to the top of the range. I think because, I ran a poll just, a week or two ago on March 14th, I believe was the date. And Bitcoin was 38,800, asking, which way are we going? Are we going to 25,000? Are we going to 51,000? And there was a ton of people who believed that we were going to 25,000 from that point. But of course, we could see we're only 6,000 away now from 51,000. I was involved in some Twitter spaces a couple weeks ago, and I've been peeking around, and there is a ton of excitement saying, if we break above $45,000, it's some significant moment. For my thesis, it's not that, right? So I'm not here to be like the bearer of bad news or to be a negative Nancy, right? My thought process is Bitcoin is eventually working its way into a retracement, right? I think we will see, the mid 50s. I just don't think it'll be in a straight line, and that this will probably go on much longer than people anticipate. But if my thesis is accurate, the more exciting place to be is going to be over here in the altcoin market. And we'll kind of review what has happened in here. And that, we had a massive ABC correction that came in down in here, followed by 5 waves to the upside, and then having a big ABC correction, taking us back to retracement levels. And we've been able to hold these retracement levels down here at the 702 retracement, and on the weekly time frame, been able to hold the weekly support levels in here. So this has been real interesting to see that the altcoin market was able to hold that the whole time, and now we're kind of bouncing out of there. So I think this is where the action is. That's where my bets are placed personally, is in the altcoin market. I know a lot of people don't study Elliott waves, and there's a ton to Elliott waves. Even I don't know everything about Elliott waves. They can be so extensive, but general concept here is you have an A, B, C correction, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, followed by an A, B, C, pulling back, holding support, as we can see on top of the weekly support on the B wave. And when we look at what Elliott waves look like, we have big, massive waves, and then you have subwaves within those and subwaves within those. But conceptually, what you have is after a big wave, you have an A, B, C correction, right? So a big run up and then an A, B, C correction, which is what we saw happen back in here. And then you go on for another leg. And within that first wave, within that leg right in here, we will see 5 waves show up. So we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then as this pulls back, you have an ABC. And where does it pull back to? It pulls back to the top of where this previous ABC happened in here. And we hold right here on top of the B leg right in here for the ABC correction. So we could see these levels holding in here. And that's what we've witnessed so far here within the total market cap of the altcoin market. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, ABC pulling back down. on top of the B leg and holding at retracement levels. So the grand idea of it all would be that, where are we at right now with the altcoin market would be like we're somewhere in here. We've just finished wrapping up wave 2 and heading in for wave 3, 4, and 5. Not necessarily saying we're here within wave 3 of 5 and then there's a whole nother leg to go up beyond that. That's not really my thoughts. My thoughts are more that we're kind of in the final wave up in here, but that we're kind of wrapping up this phase right in here and getting ready for our final run. And I did do a ton of wave counts in here. I did a video pretty much dedicated to this to count out the waves in here and why this would be an ABC corrective wave after a 5-wave impulsive wave, to show that we had a 5, 3, 5 correction in here. And then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you have your ABC correction that comes in here, and it does not bypass the height of wave 4. And in a typical 5, 3, 5 correction, where you then go on and have your 5 waves down, that forms a whole ABC. And so 5 with ABC not bypassing wave 4 and then 5 more waves, that is how an ABC correction plays out in here. And we can see 5 waves down, ABC to wave 4, and then 5 more waves down. That's your typical ABC correction. All those conditions look good in here for that as well. So I am excited on the altcoin market. And we can see as I'm recording now, boom, Bitcoin just peaked above $45,000. And so we'll talk about things as well. And in regards to sentiment, what happens when things get really exciting all over again right now, right? So 45,000 has been this big key level that people have talked about. I don't consider it to be too big of a key level. I understand it is the top of a range, but we'll take a look at other things too. Like if you follow my channel, I'm not huge on moving averages. You can pretty much modify the time frame of what the moving averages are. You can modify whether or not you're looking at a 4-hour chart and all these things matter. Or you could say we're looking at a daily time frame and say, hey, look, we're through all of these right now. Look, the next moving average is way up there at 48,000. Or the other big one that, a lot of people have looked at for a long time is the weekly ones, right? So we know that we took out the 50-week moving average back here in December, and you can see where we are right now, right? So bypassing $45,000 still sets you underneath that 50-week moving average right there, right? So anybody buying above $45,000 is also buying at the 50-week moving average after it's broken down. And you go throughout history and you look at it, in bull runs when a 50-week moving average has been crossed in here after a big bull run, historically not the best thing to do, right? To buy right back on the back test of the 50-week moving average. So that's why there's still a lot of caution there for me with Bitcoin. But I had established my thesis on what I, thought would play out with Bitcoin. I thought we would break the 50-week moving average. And I had thought that we would pull back down here close to the 100. But also in my thesis is that we probably would break back through the 50-week moving average again. And so imagine what sentiment would be like if we do break through the 50-week moving average. You can go back through history and look at these bull runs and say, there was no time where, you started a bear market, broke the 50-week, and then broke back through it, right? I mean, that just didn't happen in these bear markets. So what happens here if this 50-week gets broken through again, right? That 50-week keeps going down, but price breaks through it right there, right? That's going to create an entirely sentiment-driven shift to say this time is different. It has been my thesis that this would be an element that would likely be different this time around, is that we would actually break back through the 50-week moving average because the retracement levels are above the 50-week moving average. But I bet you there will be a ton of people pointing to it that we just got back through the 50-week moving average again if we do get through it. So that's going to cause a lot of confusion out there if we do. But just know that even though right now that, we're playing around with $45,000, know that, hey, look, you can see what's right there ahead of us, right? That one still sits right in there. So just a little bit of a kind of extra caution out there for everybody saying out there, if it's above $45,000, buy it. I think a lot of people may just be surprised that it is actually moving back up here to $45,000 because when that poll was conducted last week, 45% of people believed that Bitcoin was going to break down to $25,000. So when you have that many people feeling surprised by the market, right, they pour back in. I had TXMC from Alpha Beta Soup on last week, and we were looking at a lot of the on-chain data pointing to that. It was more likely that the prices would go back up due to the accumulation happening by wallets containing at least one Bitcoin, the exchange inflows and outflows, and the perpetual futures basis. They were all pointing towards upward price action rather than negative price action. So it's not that surprising, right? And I've been talking about it this week that, I anticipated that we would be going to the upside, but it all still points back to retracement levels, right? Nothing's out of the woods in any way until retracements get back in. And that's going to kind of be the story as, we try to work our way back up to these price levels in here, back into those mid 50,000s for Bitcoin. But as TXMC was showing here on the YouTube channel last Friday, is that, addresses that contain at least one Bitcoin were rising, and that this has been a historical leading indicator for when a fall does occur. And we could see that the addresses with at least one Bitcoin have been rising drastically. And we can see even, into this time period right here, they're still rising. So that's a good sign. And the exchange outflows are still happening. So Bitcoin is not pouring onto exchanges, right? So in these circumstances, as it went into its retracement back in April and May of last year, Bitcoin was starting to pour onto the exchanges before the big fall happened in May. And then as capitulation happened, even more Bitcoin flew onto the exchanges. And that's also what we saw back in here, right? Bitcoin was flying onto the exchanges to get sold. And then when capitulation came in, the retail investors came in and brought theirs in and capitulated at the lows. But as we can see right in here, as this rise is taking place here in Bitcoin, exchange outflows are still happening. So Bitcoin is not being poured onto the exchanges right now to be dumped at this point. So these are positive things. And this is about the extent of on-chain analysis that I can do. I highly suggest going to TXMC for any of this type of stuff. But of those two super simple metrics, they still look good. I think just the big cautionary thing out there right now is to say, how many times have we seen it as, Bitcoin's price rises up in a bull market, gets through the 50-week moving average, and then, back tests it, and that's it. So there's a lot of excitement right now, but we all should probably be aware of where we're located at right now. My thoughts are that we will get through it. It doesn't mean that the bear market isn't over and that eventually, given later this year at some point, this thing does tumble all the way back down. But for sure, at this point today, as these prices are, teasing with $45,000, that thing is right there, sitting at 45,885. So, today is Friday, this will be the last video of the week. So we'll have Saturday and Sunday. And then on Sunday night, the weekly candle will close. If the weekly candle closes above $46,000, I probably expect a lot of excitement to happen over there, because that would indicate that the weekly candle closed above the 50-week moving average, which is something we haven't seen happen before in a Bitcoin bull run, where it breaks through the 50-week moving average, closes multiple weeks down here. We've closed 12 weeks below the 50-week moving average. To close a week above the 50-week moving average after doing that would be something that we haven't seen happen before in Bitcoin. Now, that's just an indicator. It doesn't tell me anything is different with Bitcoin. Like I say, I keep saying, hey, you know what? It's the retracement levels that matter so much to me, watching how this retracement is going to play out. And I know a lot of excitement will pour in if that 50-week moving average gets broken above and gets closed above, and it would definitely give us something to talk about next week. But when that weekly candle closes on Sunday, if it closes above $46,000, then it will have closed above the 50-week moving average, something we haven't seen happen before. I would think, would definitely drive a lot of excitement back into crypto. So it's been a wild ride for the last several weeks being down here at the bottom of this range. And it's been crazy to see even this total altcoin market cap staying within this parallel channel. And crypto moves so fast and our worlds move so fast. It's, hard to believe that it was really only a week ago that the Dow Jones was sitting down here near this 32,000 level. And we're sitting saying, hey, for an ABC correction with waves of equal length, this area needs to be holding in here. And then typically what happens is a slam back, and then we go back up into this 35,000 region here. And sure enough, here we are in the Dow Jones, right? 34,900, right? That's that area that in these corrections, many times what you see is you see some stalling out in here. And if we saw stalling out happen in the Dow Jones, probably see it happening in Bitcoin as well. But still, the whole setup in here, this is normal for what happens before eventually off and away it goes. So I'm overall optimistic on the cryptocurrency market. I know that when we're in ranges like this for a long time, there can be an overwhelming excitement if we do break through it. Like we mentioned, it's been 79 days that Bitcoin's been stuck in that range. If it gets above it, 80 days, right? 79 days of relief gets let out. But these processes go a little slow. I'm still rooting for this thing to keep on going. But I have my expectations set that just because Bitcoin can get through this area right here doesn't necessarily mean, hey guys, we're going to the moon. It likely means we're probably still ranging for a little while. But I think we can all, celebrate. We're not down there anymore, right? And one of the things also to take note of too with all that, right? So, and I know it's an exciting time right now, right? Like if Bitcoin gets through there, we should be like super jumping around, hooting and hollering. But, I tried to remain optimistic and be like, hey, we're moving up, as we were down there at the lows. And I know it was painful during that time and emotions were not there. Just attacking and toxicity was going on. And not everybody, of course, right? It's just more than usual, right? And then as we get to the top, everybody wants to be like, hey, let's hoot and holler. Let's have some fun. But my optimism is on the Dow is like, we're going to get up, we're going to get up. But the area that, for me for concern with the Dow Jones was right in here, right? This is typically in this structure, which here we can even, point at it for Bitcoin when it was something similar like this, when you had an ABC with waves of equal length in here, is that, we talked about how this was working out the same area. These things were, same accumulation structures happening down in here, right? There's even a knockback before you're able to break out and go. And that's what we've had is a breakout and go. And that there does have a pullback that comes back in here before an uptrend can resume. And that area, is right in here, right? Not necessarily way up here at the top of wave B, right? And so the top of wave B is way up in here. So if it stalls out earlier than that, right, and it pulls back down, and, this may not even be as deep. You can look how low that goes. I mean, imagine if it comes all the way back down in here. We talk all the time about, my thought is that, crypto follows the stock market, right? But if the Dow Jones, it's sitting right there at 34,929 right now, this area here, at 35,000, it's nearly here, right? It's nearly at that time period where a correction starts in here. So it can reaccumulate and then eventually start an uptrend. And right as the Dow is getting back to this area for where this typical corrective structure eventually has some form of resistance come in, that also happens to be exactly as Bitcoin's getting back to its 50-week moving average. So I'm just a little cautious in regards to like being like, hey, if this thing, moves up higher, it's like the super exciting time period. I see the headwinds ahead of us in regards to the Dow Jones and in regards to the 50-week moving average over there on Bitcoin. My zoomed out view, go out to, the next like couple of months, I'm way more optimistic. But like when it comes to just like the next couple of weeks or so, you could see why I have like a little bit of caution in here to be like, it might not be time just yet. And so as we try to get through this weekend, we'll see how the prices play out. But just know there has never been a circumstance in a bull run where Bitcoin broke through the 50-week moving average and then was able to clear back through it. In both 2014 and 2018, both times that this happened, it was not able to clear back through it. So extreme caution is happening right now, and we'll see how things happen throughout the weekend. And we'll see if this is one of those moments where I talk about, simulation god, puppet masters pulling the puppet strings. We'll see what happens if the Dow rejects here at 35,000. Bitcoin rejects there at the 50-week moving average, and some type of narrative happens all at the exact same time. That becomes pretty hard to explain when those types of things happen. So we'll watch the markets and see how they react together. But I'm seeing a confluence of these different things. Let's see if a narrative comes with it. But just know, I'm not here to play the villain. I'm rooting for the prices to go up. I want the prices to go up. It's a lot more fun making YouTube videos and engaging with everybody when prices are going up. So I'm certainly rooting for it. But I always want to share with you guys what I'm seeing. And so these are the things that I see right now. Those are the things that are on my mind. And with all these things happening, I, of course, will have my eyes glued to the charts probably the whole weekend. And I'll probably be tweeting over here on Twitter. So definitely give me a follow on Twitter at bcbacker if you're not already. If you missed it last night, I was there in the Link to Spaces meeting for SEC versus Ripple roundtable discussion. There's a lot of fun. A lot of great questions were answered in there. I was there just to kind of hang out and be a listener, but I ended up being on stage at the same time. So it was a good time. It was a lot of fun. Looks like you can listen to the recording of that. Looks like they recorded it and published it over there too. That was also hosted by Link2, which I've mentioned is a sponsor of the Blockchain Backer YouTube channel. You could check them out by visiting the link in the description of this video. But otherwise, that'll be it for this week, guys. It was kind of a short week, 3 videos this week, but I feel like I've been just like grinding away all week. When you're doing tax stuff, it just exhausts you, as you all know. But it's been a positive price action week for the cryptocurrency market, and for that, I am grateful. But on that note, I hope that you have a wonderful weekend. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you're looking for something to do throughout the weekend, of course, you could check out my website over here, which is bcbacker.com. And this is a course that I put together where I deep dive into the previous Bitcoin bull runs, the previous altcoin market cycles, tying them all together to show how the cryptocurrency market has worked in the past. I talk about my personal exit plans in here, and I teach you how to set up your own charts and your own indicators within TradingView and CoinTrader Pro. Talk a lot about mathematics and percentages and why those are so important to me. And the most recent market update is in there on February 28th. And you can check out all of this educational content over here on bcbacker.com. Like I mentioned, you can follow me over here on Twitter at bcbacker. And I want to thank you so much for watching my channel. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice, and I am not a financial advisor. But if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.